Hello everybody, welcome to the I Am IT Geek YouTube channel. My name is Shabazz Dan, as ever, I am the IT Geek. Welcome back to another series, so the less technical series. I think I've talked about this for a few weeks now. I've mentioned it on a couple of podcasts that I was on. I think I mentioned it on Dwayne Natwick's kind of podcast with Shannon that they do. I'm going to be doing a bit more of a personal series now. I've done a lot of technical stuff, and with all the sort of Australia stuff going on and my big move, I think I don't have the time to invest in technical content at the moment. So I thought it's not to say that what I'm going to be doing now isn't time investing. Obviously, I'm recording, editing, and stuff like that. But I feel like it'd be nice to, especially now I'm coming up with a big change in my life and my career. I thought it'd be really interesting to talk about my career journey. I've been in the IT industry since 2008, I want to say, probably a bit before if you include my work experience. But let's say when I graduated 2006, sorry, that I graduated, so 2007, so 10, 15 years, over 15 years, easy. And it's been a long journey, and there's a lot of different sort of jobs that I've done within that time, and a lot of experiences that I've gained, a lot of decisions that I've made, for right or wrong. But I thought it'd be good to share those. So this episode is really just to start off that sort of journey and to explain a little bit about where I started. So obviously born and bred in Bradford. And essentially I went to school in Bradford, obviously, but this is kind of where I'd like to start is my university. So when I did my A levels, like most people, you have that decision: do I want to go to university? Do I want to start working? Blah blah blah. In the tech industry, you have another. Obviously, in most industries as well, I suppose. But in the tech industry, there's another option, which is an apprenticeship. Now, at the time when I was making this decision, it wasn't really apprenticeships, especially in tech. Weren't that many around, that I knew of anyway, and it wasn't kind of the done thing. It was, especially coming from the culture and the background that I came from, obviously British Pakistani. It was kind of university was the done thing. You were kind of not pressured, but there's an expectation that you would go to university. So I decided to go down that route, and I ended up doing computer and information systems. Now, there's a reason why I'm telling you that. It's not that because it does make up part of my career journey. I did Bradford University. I did computer and information systems, but I did what was called a sandwich course at the time. I don't know what they call it now, but essentially it meant that I did a year in industry. So with that year in industry, it wasn't that like you did at school where you got one picked for you and you got to go do a 2 week experience. This was like applying for a proper job. So knowing in my third year, so I did 2 years of studying. Then I did a year in industry, and I'd come back to do my fourth and final year. So I had to apply for jobs like as a graduate, essentially as a graduate, and work experience roles. And if you think of it, there were so many people, not on my course, so many students in the UK in the same sort of predicament as I was, looking for a work placement for that year. So I was competing with thousands of other students. And I've still got the folder in my Hotmail account with all the jobs that I applied for. I applied for hundreds and hundreds of jobs, anything I could find. I applied for, and there were loads of opportunities, there were loads available, and I got all rejected, and there was one. I got one interview out of the 100 job applications that I did. I got one. You can imagine I didn't really have. Try to stand out is the key when you're applying for jobs, I suppose, especially that time with no experience. Obviously, I was going for a work experience role, for industry, so I had to make that clear in my application. And I got one interview, and it was for a help desk role. Obviously, so I'm from Bradford. I lived in Bradford. I went to university in Bradford. This role was in Scarborough. At the time, the company was called Raffletac. So I went to. It was an overnight stay that I had to go do because they had like a meal. The interview was quite interesting actually. They had like a meal in the evening, so they invited you round to like a meal where you had with the rest of the applicants. Quite strange, about 10 or 15 applicants. And then in the day after, you went to the offices in Scarborough, and you did like a workshop where you worked in groups and you worked individually on certain things, give you activities to do, then narrowed it down to interview 3 people. And I must have had a good impression. Got through to the final 3 interview stage, and I ended up getting the role. And Before then, I'll be honest with you, I didn't really know much about the IT industry. I was doing obviously computer information systems, but now when I look back now, again, I don't want to speak for courses right about now, what the kind of IT and tech courses at university level are like now. But at the time, what I was doing did not prepare me for anything I'm doing in industry now. Hand on heart, nothing that I did in my course prepped me for what I'm doing in industry or what I have done in industry. No training on hardware, no training on networking. It was all kind of coding and that sort of base. And again, fair enough if you want to go into that, that's fine. I suppose it does prepare you, but that's not the only part of IT. There's project management. There's obviously infrastructure. There obviously is software, there's development, and it didn't prepare me for anything. I didn't do anything in my course that was practical. So just on that point around me getting one interview out of the whole about hundreds and hundreds of applications that I did, the reason I got the interview the reason why I got chosen to come to that sort of interview process and that workshop for that job was because of my CV. So there's something I put on my CV, and it was I don't think I have it on anymore. I still removed it, but it was a true story around. I used to captain. There used to be like university football, so I used to captain one of the teams. So I played football in university, and I used to captain one of the teams. And the way I told the story was that it's quite funny that we were playing university. I won't name the university. We were playing university, and half time we were 2-0 down, and I gave a rousing speech and team talk at half time to turn it around, and we ended up drawing 2-2. The story actually is that it's the opposite. We were winning 2-0 and we ended up drawing 2-0 at full time. Anyway, I twisted it a bit. Come on, everybody lies on the CV. If you're saying anything else, you're a liar. Everybody lies on the CV. I twisted the truth slightly. But anyway, they loved that story. That's one of the reasons why they invited me. And they actually asked me about that whole thing in my interview, which was quite funny. But it just goes to show that the first kind of bit of advice I want to give students out there, or people who are obviously, I'm 39, so a lot younger than me, or starting their careers, is try and stand out on your CV. It's not all about the certifications or your expertise, or that does play a big part. But try and stand out. There's so many people with the same certs as you, the same experience as you, potentially, or even more experience. Try and stand out in your CV. So your extracurricular activities do help, and because there's so much competition for jobs in general in any industry, it's about showing your personality. I know sometimes that's difficult on a CV, but extra interest and extracurricular interests really do help. And I've been helping Netcompany recently do interviews for certain roles, and what I find is I really look for the personality. Obviously, I do sort of the technical interviews, but the personality of the candidate is very important. So that'd be my first piece of key advice. And this is kind of one takeaway I wanted from this video, which is why I've told that story, that making yourself stand out and having a good personality is just as important, especially when you're first coming into that industry. You need to make an impression, and obviously it should be a good impression. And your personality, that's being kind to people, being accepting of others and other cultures, being a team player, being able to work individually as well, but being able to fit into that sort of company mentality that you're going into is very, very important. So as well as the tech, make sure you've got the personality and you're a good person. That's not to say introverts can't get jobs, but I think it's important to show your personality. Even if that is an introvert personality, show it. Be proud of that personality. I'm a very outgoing person. I'm always talking and joking, and I like to have fun in my work. I think that shows in my content, and it showed in my CV with that kind of funny anecdote around football, which was kind of half true. So, and what I want to say towards the end of this video, just a little bit about that work experience. So like I said, when I got that role, I didn't know anything about the IT industry, and there was no expectation that I would, because it was obviously a sort of a work experience role. They knew I'd be there for a year, and I'd be moving back and finishing my degree. That was the first time I'd ever lived away from home. I'd obviously stayed in Bradford to university, and that was the first time I'd been away from home. So it was a lot of new things for me. Being able to fend for myself, live on my own. Couldn't cook for love nor money. I couldn't cook at all, so I had to learn all that, do my own washing, everything like that. So it was a very difficult time for me, if I'm honest. It was a change in lifestyle, experiencing different things. But the one thing that happened during that it was 15 months in the end, because I stayed and worked the summer. I fell in love with tech. because it was a help desk role. It was mainly on site and phone support, but mainly on site because they had a big factory. And it was mainly hardware support. At that time, cloud wasn't really around much, and it was just kind of starting, and a lot of companies were using it. So there's all on premises, servers, VMware, Hyper-V, Exchange on premises, all that sort of stuff. And I was the first line, second line support. So I'd pick up the phone, log a ticket. If it was on premises, I'd go fix it. If it was remote, I'd try and fix it remotely. And I'd be in charge of doing the backup tapes, all that jazz. And I'll be honest, I fell in love with the tech industry. And unfortunately, before my first 2 years of university, I didn't do very well from a educational perspective. Academically, I was struggling because again, it was all sort of coding and Java and SQL, and it just wasn't my forte. I wasn't strong at it. What did happen though is that sort of work experience gave me the motivation to say, you know what, I really want to work in tech because I enjoyed it so much. And I do want to thank the people who saw me through that 15 months. And one of my followers and a former mentor of mine, Dave Holborn, who I will give Dave Holborn a shout out on this, and Steve Ritchie. I don't think Steve's in tech anymore. I think he does a hotel. I'll put their link in the description. But big shout out to Dave Holborn and Steve Ritchie because they were very very influential with that 15 months. They helped me out so much. They were so good to me, and they practically treated me like a little brother. To be fair, give me plenty of stick, but they also treat me really well. I'm really grateful for their help. So they helped me through my time at what was called Raffle Attack. It then got made UPM Cumini. I think it was a Finnish company after that. Either way, that 15 months made me fall in love with tech, and it motivated me to come back to university and study my bum off. And I think I got a first class degree in my final year to really bring my grade up to where it needed to be. I graduated with honours, and I think it's because of my time on my work experience I was able to do that. So the second piece of advice, always try and stand out on your CV. The second piece of advice I want to give to students and people who are looking to get into tech and are currently studying is do a sandwich course, get experience. If you've got the opportunity to do like a year in industry during your university, do it, because not only will it look good on a CV because you'll have that year's experience first, it'll also do you the world of good because you'll have practical experience of the industry and what it's really like, working with different vendors, software, hardware. And like I said, I don't know what university courses are like at the moment, but back then they were very, very focused on development, not even development, coding and and computer software. And it's just, I don't know, that's just not the industry that I fell into. But yeah, so that's the first video is where I kind of really wanted to start talking about where I got my passion for tech from, and what made me fall in love with this industry, and why I decided to do it. So I think that is enough for the first video. So I just thought it'd be good to tell you where the journey started, some of the people who influenced me when I first started. So like I mentioned, Dave Holborn and Steve Ritchie. Massive shout out to both of you. Thank you very much for all the advice that you gave me in those early years. I think what I've gained a lot from that time, and part of me thinks, it's funny when I talk to students now who are even coming up in school, because I've done a couple like workshops for school kids, like GCSEs and whatnot. I actually recommend doing an apprenticeship. Apprenticeships are much more common now, and not that I would take anything back. I don't have any regrets about my decisions that I made, but I would tell students now, do a work experience, do an apprenticeship, because you go down that route, you straight away out of school, you get to work in industry, and you get paid to study, and you'll get the qualifications that you need as well, and you'll get the chance to do vendor certs as well. So a cousin of mine was in a similar position. He was deciding, should I go to university or what should I do? I recommended doing an apprenticeship. He's works he's a second line IT engineer now for quite a big company. So it just shows that I, in my opinion, doing an apprenticeship in the tech industry anyway, gives you a much better grounding and to excel at a much quicker rate than you would a degree. That's not to say that degrees aren't useful. They are. I'm not saying that. But I feel in the tech industry, you'll be much better off doing an apprenticeship, because you'll be learning about the industry as soon as you come out of school. So yeah, that's kind of what I want to talk about in the first video, where it all started basically, and how I got into tech and where my passion came from. In the next video, it's going to be a bit of a longer series because obviously I've had a long career so far. I'm going to talk about sort of my first role coming out of university and how that went, and some of the people who influenced me in that period as well. So thanks for watching. By all means, what in the comments, share your tech story. How did you start in tech? For people that are watching, put in the comments, how did you start in tech? What was your first job? And how did you get started in the industry? So I'd be really interested to hear about that. So I'll put a couple of useful links in there as well. So thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye.